Jayo Haribo, 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 do Haribo. Jayo Haribo, 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 do Haribo. Lord Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Everyone together, please. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tito Jayam Udirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Preshvabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevayam Bhagavati Tama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. We're starting a new chapter this morning of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, called Scheduled Incarnations with Specific Functions. So before we start reading about the incarnations, which this entire chapter is dedicated to, I want to read a very pivotal section from Bhagavad Gita, from the 4th chapter. So what I'd like to do is read the Sanskrit and English for these translations together. This is a point in the Gita at which is a very pivotal point because it's the first time that Krishna reveals his divinity to Arjuna. In this conversation they're having, Krishna has told him why he should be fighting. He's told him about working selflessly in karma yoga. But now, after explaining this and how selfless work culminates in yoga, he's now explaining why Arjuna, well, rather I should say Arjuna asked a very honest question, a very pertinent question. So let's read the Sanskrit, English, the first 7 verses. Srila Prabhupada said, if you can memorize 20 verses of Bhagavad Gita, you can teach it anywhere in the world. And so this section contains several very memorable verses, particularly the last one, which is famous in every household in India, which I'll tell you why in a moment. All right, let's chant these Sanskrit and English together. You ready? First 7 verses. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavanaham Avyayam Viviswan Manave Praha Manor Ikshvakave Bravit. The personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god Viviswan, and Viviswan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ikshvaku. Evam parampara praptam imam raja shayo vidu Sakalaneha Mahata Yogo Nashta Parantapa. The supreme science was thus received through the chain of the cyclic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. The word in Sanskrit is glanir, dharma glanir, which means the destruction of dharma. So, therefore, Krishna says, Sa evayam maya tedya yogo prokta paratana bhakto sime sakacheti rahasyam etam uttamam. That very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you because you are my devotee as well as my friend and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science. Okay, so now Arjuna asks his very pertinent question. Arjuna uvacha Apanam bhavato janma param janma vivasvataha katam etad vajaniyam tvam adau proktavan iti. Arjuna said, the sun god Vivaswan is senior by birth to you. How am I to understand that in the beginning you instructed this science to him? So, to see, it's so nice how Arjuna is such a real person, a real human being. He's asking this relevant question, to which Krishna replies, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tavacharjuna tanyaham veda sarvani natvam veda parantapa. The personality of Godhead said, many, many births both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot, O subduer of him. Up to this point, Krishna has been teaching. But now he's saying, okay, well, actually, I am on a different status than you as far as my divinity. Ajopi san avyayatma bhutanam ishvaropi san Bhavatim swamadhishtaya sambhavam yatmamayaya. Although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, by my internal energy I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. So here Krishna is saying, yes, your body and mine are different. Earlier in the second chapter, he said, never is there a time when we did not exist, nor in the future shall we ever cease to be. So he's putting himself and Arjuna in a collective category. We're both eternal. Here for the first time, he's saying, my body is different. My body never deteriorates. My body never suffers any kind of pain. My body is transcendental. And because of that, I'm able to just appear millennium and millennium after millennium. And when and where and why does he appear? In this verse. This verse is famous all over India. So, going to memorize one of them. Memorize this one. Yada yada hi dharmasya pranir bhavati bharata abhyutanam adharmasya tadatmanam shujam yaham. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharata, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. Okay, so now over to Bhagavatam, please. So this verse, you know how in TV shows or movies there's some kind of theme music to at the beginning to set the mood, get your attention. Okay. So the Mahabharata was serialized in India many years ago as a TV presentation, and it was quite profound in its effect. I remember seeing even in little villages when I was going on a train, going through little villages, you see all these very simple houses with thatched roofs, and so there'd be one TV antenna. And whenever it was on once a week, the whole village would gather and everybody would be watching this Mahabharata. So before every episode was this verse. And that was the theme music, the introduction. Yada Yadahi Dharmasya. So we're going to start this series of scheduled incarnations with specific functions. So this is a certain type of avatar of Krishna. So we were reading at the end of the previous chapter how, in fact, Brahma is speaking to Narada. He says, "Now I shall state one after another the transcendental incarnations of the Lord known as Leela avatars. Hearing of their activities counteracts all foul matters accumulated in the ear. These pastimes are pleasing to hear and are to be relished, therefore they are in my heart." So I guess we've done our Sanskrit for the morning. Let's just read this verse together, please. Lord Brahma said, "When the unlimitedly powerful Lord assumed the form of a boar as a pastime, just to live the planet Earth, which was drowned in the great ocean of the universe called Garbhodak, the first demon, Hiranyasha, appeared."
And the Lord pierced him with his tusks.
To get the purport on this one, just going to read the next text, please. The Prajapati first begot Suyagya in the womb of his wife Akuti, and then Suyagya begot demigods headed by Suyama in the womb of his wife Dakshina. Suyagya, as the Indradev, diminished very great miseries in the three planetary systems, upper, lower, and intermediate. And because he so diminished the miseries of the universe, he was later called Hari by the great father of mankind, namely Swayambhu. Now text 3. Together, please. The Lord then appeared as the Kapila incarnation, being the son of the Prajapati, Brahmana, Kardama, and his wife Devahuti, along with 9 other women sisters. He spoke to his mother about self-realization, by which, in that very lifetime, she became fully cleansed of the mud of the material modes, and thereby achieved liberation, the path of Kapila. This is the quota for this morning, these 3 first incarnations. Varaha, the boar incarnation, Indra, and now Kapila. Now let's read this purport, please. Who'd like to start reading? Volunteers?
The instructions of Lord Kapila to his mother Devahuti are fully described in the 3rd canto, chapters 25 through 32 of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And anyone who follows the instructions can achieve the same liberation obtained by Devahuti. The Lord spoke Bhagavad Gita, and thereby Arjuna achieved self-realization. And even today, anyone who follows the path of Arjuna can also attain the same benefit as Sri Arjuna. The scriptures are meant for this purpose. Foolish, unintelligent persons make their own interpretations by imagination and thus mislead their followers, causing them to remain in the dungeon of material existence. However, simply by following the instructions imparted by Lord Krishna or Lord Kapila, one can obtain the highest benefit even today.
Okay, next paragraph.
The word Atmagatim is significant in the sense of perfect knowledge of the Supreme. One should not be satisfied simply by knowing the qualitative quality of the Lord and the living being. One should know the Lord as much as can be known by our limited knowledge. It is impossible for the Lord to be known perfectly as he is, even by such a liberated person as Shiva or Brahma. So what to speak of other demigods or men in this world? Still, by following the principles of the great devotees and the instructions available in the scriptures, one can know to a considerable extent the features of the Lord. His Lordship Kapila, the incarnation of the Lord, instructed his mother fully about the personal form of the Lord, and thereby she realized the personal form of the Lord and was able to achieve a place in the Vaikuntha Loka where Lord Kapila predominates. Every incarnation of the Lord has its own abode in the spiritual sky. Therefore, Lord Kapila also has his separate Vaikuntha planet.
The spiritual sky is not void. There are innumerable Vaikuntha planets, and in each of them the Lord, by his innumerable expansions, predominates. and the pure devotees who are there also live in the same style as the Lord and his eternal associates.
Go ahead.
When the Lord descends personally or by his personal plenary expansions, such incarnations are called Amsa, Kala, Guna, Yuga, and Manvantara incarnations. And when the Lord's associates descend by the order of the Lord, such incarnations are called Shaktavesh incarnations. But in all cases, all the incarnations are supported by the invulnerable statements of the authorized scriptures, and not by any imagination of some self-interested propagandist. Such incarnations of the Lord in either of the above categories always declare the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be the ultimate truth. The impersonal conception of the Supreme Truth is just a process of negation of the form of the Lord from the mundane conception of the Supreme Truth.
Right, let's stop there. What does this word incarnation mean? What is the root of that word? Karna, right? What is karna? Flesh. Yes. Like carnivorous. Like McDonald's. Millions of carnivores fit. So incarnation implies like something spiritual coming into the flesh. And yet Krishna has said in this verse we're reading from the Gita that a Jopi son of Yayatman, my body is unborn. It's transcendental. It's not flesh, in other words. Flesh means it has a start and an end. So this word incarnation, for that reason, is a little, it's not a full translation in English. Let's put it that way. It's many words in Sanskrit are like that. You really can't capture the entire meaning in the English equivalent. But nonetheless, the idea of incarnation is important for this chapter because we'll be reading about many of them. In this paragraph, why don't you scroll up, please? These different types of incarnations are explained. Yes. Now, this Krishna conscious theology, it's so amazing. There's so much in these purports we're going to possibly unpack, but just a few principles to really focus on for this morning. First of all, Krishna comes in various forms for various purposes. He's not limited. Some theologies say that God just comes once and then he's worshipped perpetually after that, or he sends a representative once and then that representative is worshipped perpetually. What we learn from the Vedas is that Krishna is coming again and again and again. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. Whenever there's a decline of dharma, of goodness, of morality, of honesty, of truth, and a rise of adharma, of the dictators and cruel leaders and injustice, Krishna descends. So he comes again and again and again. This is the important thing to understand. The material world is like a jail. It's for people who are not cooperative. In society, the government provides libraries and universities and all kinds of parks, all kinds of positive places for the law-abiding citizens to use. And the same government makes a jail for all the criminals. So the material world is like the jail part of creation. The law-abiding citizens are with Krishna in the spiritual world or any one of his innumerable spiritual planets. But the dacoits, the scofflaws, the troublemakers come to Gainesville and take birth in the material world. And so even though that part of the government's creation is for the bad guys, still the government is responsible. Everyone in the government gets their meals. Everyone in the jail gets their meals. And the government sets up wardens and supervisors to see that the jail is properly run. So, in fact, in jail, people get medical care, they get a place to stay. That's why for many people who are struggling, they would rather be in jail and be cared for than to be on their own on the society, which is very sad. But anyway, aside from that, the point is that Krishna comes to the material world, just like Like the governor might visit the jail. The governor is in the jail, but not a prisoner like the prisoners. So in speaking Bhagavad Gita, he's addressing us from that position. He's coming in to visit us. He's coming in to care for us. He's coming in to try to help us reform. This is what the penal system is called, isn't it? The rehabilitation, the corrections, Department of Corrections. Thank you for correcting. Yes, yes, yes. The Department of Corrections. Oh, I wish I could think that far ahead. Yes. The jail is meant for rehabilitation. It's not meant for just endless punishment. Like some theologies call for that. They say, if you don't believe, your destiny is eternal damnation. Eternal damnation. The lake of fire. You're going to burn eternally. You are done. You're cooked. You're good. Forget it. You're finished. If you don't believe, and you don't believe right now. Now, are we supposed to love a God who approaches us that way? How do you love somebody who's holding a gun at your head? You may say, I love you. But it's not coming from the heart. So spirituality can never be achieved by threat. And so this is why the jail analogy is so apt, because we have the free will to follow the laws or not. That's every citizen's right to decide. And then the consequences are there accordingly. If we follow, we get the benefits. If we don't follow, we get the jail. So in the incarnations in this chapter, Krishna is coming for that purpose. In fact, he's so gracious, so generous with his time, that he comes again and again. And he comes in a variety of ways. So, I mean, this again, theologically, just it's mind-blowing to compare how much there is in Vaishnava theology. All the various types of incarnations are coming, and why they come, and how they come, and what is their function when they come. So this is the topic of this chapter. So very briefly, I want to go through, breakfast is here, okay. I want to go briefly through these 6 types of avatars. This is all technical stuff you don't need to remember. Just memorize that verse, number 7, if you want to memorize something. Okay, but Amsa, Kala, Guna, Yuga, and Manvantara. So, Angsa means like a part, a little part. Like the hand, you could say, is an angsa of the body. It's not the whole thing, and yet it's one with the body, yet it's distinct. Okay. So the Amsa incarnations are partial incarnations. They are Krishna just manifesting one particular facet of himself. That's what we'll be reading about in this chapter, these Amsa or Lila avatars. They come for particular functions. For the most part, these are Amsa avatars. And then Kala avatar, or rather Kala avatar, that means fully. They're Purna, they're complete incarnations. Krishna coming in with all of his potencies. So these are the 2 distinctions. They're all Krishna, but Krishna partially or Krishna. The guna avatars, very briefly, what are the 3 gunas? What are the Thank you. Rajas, tamas, and sattva, or in English, goodness, passion, and ignorance. The word guna means rope. And like a rope, these modes bind the conditioned soul to jail. So these 3 modes, which exist only in the material world, are supervised by these incarnations of Krishna. These 3 modes, 3 incarnations. What are the 3 guna avatars? Or who are they? Who's in charge of the mode of passion? Who creates? Brahma. So he's one of the guna avatars. Who maintains? Vishnu. And then who destroys? Shiva. Right. So these are the guna avatars. Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Notice that Vishnu is the only one of those who's actually an amsa, or a partial expansion of Krishna directly. Brahma and Shiva are a different type of incarnation. They're empowered jivas, or living souls. So this is because maintaining something is much harder than creating it. Creating is generally it's like passionate work, and destroying it is like no problem. But to maintain something, that requires us to be in the mode of goodness. And this is why Vishnu himself comes to maintain the material world. So these are the three guna avatars. Yes?
Statement, which is, I think, like, because I like Lord Shiva. Like, Lord Shiva is not a jiva in our universe.
That's right. He's a unique tattva, yes.
Sure.
But he's not a Kala avatar. He's not Krishna in full. Yeah. Lord Shiva is he's got his own tattva, in fact, his own category, Shiva tattva. There's jivas, Vishnu tattva, and Shiva tattva. He's like yogurt. Like you take milk and turn it into yogurt, but you can't take yogurt and turn it into milk. So Vishnu is like milk. From Vishnu comes Shiva, but Shiva is not Vishnu. Go back. So Shiva is very worshipable. Brahma is very worshipable. And yet they do things that are somewhat less than, their powers are less than Vishnu. For example, when in the very beginnings of the universe, there was a great fight between the demigods and the demons, but they cooperated to churn the milk ocean in order to produce amrita, the nectar of life that would last forever. It's like, so what first came out of that ocean, Prabhuji, if you could go outside. Prabhuji, outside, please. Okay. Or turn it off. Okay. Your wife's probably calling, where are the sweets, right?
No, my sister.
Oh, you said so.
She's from Australia.
She's from Austria. Okay, nice. So the Shiva. Right. Oh, yes. So they were churning an ocean of milk. In Angkor Wat in Cambodia, this famous Buddhist temple is actually originally a Hindu temple. There's a huge display of this pastime, the demons and demigods, on one of the walls there in the compound. So they're churning to make amrita, the nectar of life, immortality, but out instead first comes the poison. And so Lord Shiva, out of his compassion, drinks this poison so that the rest of the universe will not be affected. So when Lord Shiva drank this poison, his throat turned dark, blue. So he's known as Kalakantha for that reason, the blue-throated one. So he was affected by the material energy. This is this one example of how his position is not quite on the platform of Vishnu Tattva. So the Guna avatars, then the Yuga avatars. There's 4 ages according to the Vedic calendar that repeat over and over again. What are the 4 ages? What's the first one? Satya Yuga, the age of goodness. And that age is very much, if you're familiar with the Bible, the Garden of Eden. In the Garden of Eden, there was no private property because the trees were so laden with fruit, the earth was so giving of everything that was needed that there was people could just roam around and live very peacefully without any kind of private possessions. Everything was provided by nature. That's Satya Yuga. So in that age, the prescribed method of self-realization was to meditate for 10,000 years, because people lived 100,000 years, so they would dedicate part of their lives to just meditating. Climate was perfect, environment was perfect, no need to have any home, any possessions, just living in nature. Very wise. So wise that people could hear the Vedic teachings, and just by hearing that once, they remember their entire life. So that's Satya Yuga. In that age, the avatar is white, and one interpretation of that is the Hamsa avatar, the swan avatar who taught the Vedas. Then the next age is called what? Treta. It's actually, yes, the reverse. Treta Yuga, which is about 25% shorter. I think that's right now. Yeah, anyways, it's shorter than Satya Yuga. In that age, the means of worship is yajna, sacrifice. And the amount of wealth necessary to perform a great sacrifice is way beyond our estimation or ability today. Like we do our little sacrifice, a little swaha. Oh, that's $50 worth of ghee he's pouring into that fire. Once the very early days, the temples were very, very poor. And so when Prabhupada was doing a yajna, told the devotees to bring butter for the sacrifice. But the devotees were thinking, oh, butter is so very expensive. So they brought margarine instead. So they had melted the margarine, it was there in the pot, and it was a wedding ceremony. And so Prabhupada poured the margarine into the fire, and the fire sputtered and went out. And Prabhupada, without missing a beat, he said, this marriage will be off to a slow start. So, enormous sacrifices were the means of worship in that age. And so the avatar for that age is red, which I believe is Rata. He's a little vague, which are the first two. And Dwapara Yuga, the third age, then the sorry? Yeah, Dwapara Yuga. This method of worship is the deity worship. And so again, we do that in a very simple way, but it's not a very elaborate way. And in that age, the incarnation is blackish. And who is the blackish incarnation? Krishna. Yes, Krishna comes in that particular age. So finally, in Kali Yuga, the method of worship is, which is again 25% shorter. The method of worship is Harinam. And that incarnation for this age is golden or yellow. Who is that? Chaitanya.
Chaitanya, a hidden incarnation, so the official incarnation is Kalki.
Yes. The Bhagavatam describes Kalki as coming at the end of Kali Yuga. So you say official. The Bhagavatam also mentions this hidden incarnation. Krishna Varnam Tvasa Krishnam Sango Pangastri Parshadam. Yagyai Sankirtana Prayar Yajantihi Sumedasa. This was written in the Bhagavatam's 11th canto. So Bhagavatam is dated at 5,000 years ago, but it is explaining how Lord Chaitanya will come in Kali Yuga with this verse and others. So Lord Chaitanya is not named directly in the Bhagavatam, therefore he's called the Gupta avatar or hidden incarnation. But he is the incarnation for Kali Yuga. And in the Bhagavatam, we read these four colors are there: white, red, black, and yellow. So he's the yellow or golden incarnation. And giving when Garga Muni, the priest, was reading Krishna's birth signs secretly in the barn, so Kamsa wouldn't find out. Kamsa was killing all the babies. So Garga Muni said, "Oh, this child has been born before. He's in this white and red and blackish and future yellow forms." So that's one of the different places that these Yuga avatars are described. Okay. Okay. So yes, Prabhu. Well, Ramachandra was not a Yuga avatar. He was a Kala avatar, I believe. Yes, Kala. He's Vishnu fully, but yeah, sure that Amsa or Kala. He's sometimes considered the like a Leela avatar. In fact, I believe he's mentioned in this chapter. So Leela avatar, Krishna as the ideal ruler. He's specifically there to show the ideal example of ruling. So in this way, yeah, it's Krishna in a partial incarnation. Okay, finally, Manvantara. So very briefly, these are the Manus who manage the universe. They are specific expansions of Krishna for that purpose. And there's 17 of them in one day of Brahma. Again, that's very technical. So they over and over again, these Manus are in charge of things. And that is Krishna's arrangement. You might say like low-level management in the jail, like the guards. So Krishna incarnates as the guards, and they take care of things. And they have various shifts. So these five are mentioned, and then the sixth one is at the bottom of the paragraph. You don't have to move it. Right there, Shaktivesh. So Shaktivesh is an incarnation of Krishna in which he empowers a living soul, a jiva, to fulfill a particular function. So what is the prominent example of a Shaktivesh avatar in our society here in North America? Well, absolutely, but I was thinking more in broad terms, more widely known and worshipped. Jesus, yeah, Jesus is like that. So there's a great deal of confusion in Christianity and differing opinions. What is Jesus' position theologically? So according to this analysis, Jesus would be a Shaktivesh avatar. He's an incarnation of God, but not God himself, just an empowered living being. Just like you might say in the prison house, so a citizen would come in to fill a specific function, to teach. He's not a prisoner. He's sent there to teach the prisoners. But at the same time, he's not an official of the government, say, just a teacher. So the actual managers of the universe are others. So anyway, this technical sciences, I just wanted to give an overview this morning. How complete is Srimad Bhagavatam? How complete is Bhagavatam? How deep and how rich? So can we give, what's the word? Can we give knowledge, or can we give evidence that's tangible, that you can go to the lab and analyze? And the answer is no. This is not perceivable by our material senses, none of it. All of these avatars have various functions. Many of them have their own planets. They have their own appearances. Can we see any of it with our senses, with these material senses? Well, we can see the deity form. The deity is also an avatar of Krishna, in which he manifests himself in a way that we can perceive with our senses. We can dress the deities, we can see them, we can offer them food, we have tangible interactions with. That's how kind Krishna is. He keeps coming in different ways just so that we can somehow get reconnected with him. He's very interested in helping us get out of the jail. He's very interested in helping us reform ourselves and become corrected. This is Krishna's great mercy. And this is why the Bhagavatam spends this whole chapter in his pastimes. So I'm going to complete the class briefly just by talking about these three incarnations that are mentioned. First, Varaha. Varaha is the boar incarnation. Who could imagine that God would come as a pig? But what does a pig do? They have the big tusks. Yeah, they dig. That's what their specialty is. They dig up grubs and insects from the ground and eat them. So we have out in Alachua, there are herds of wild boars that run around. Were you aware of this? Feral hogs. Yeah, it's a big problem in Texas, Florida. These herds of hogs just run around, and they're nocturnal, so they go at night and they'll dig up huge amounts of land looking for bugs, and They're nasty. They're very mean. They're very aggressive. They're not easy to frighten away, and they're big, big. So Varaha, the Lord appears as Varaha when the earth was thrown into the Garbhodak ocean, and the boar was needed to lift it up. So there's a whole backstory about that. It's mentioned the first demon, Hiranyaksha, threw the earth into the ocean by exploiting it. And then the Lord appeared as Varaha to lift it up. That's why devotees pray to Varaha. We pray to Nrsimhadev for protection, and we pray to Varaha for upliftment. Yeah, they're very close. In fact, there's a temple in South India, in Visakhapatnam, that on the east coast of India, where there's a deity of Nrsimhadev, but the head of Nrsimhadev is Varaha. So this is the main deity. Beautiful temple. Have you been there? Is that what it's called? Ahovalam? Ahovalam, yeah, that's near Visakhapatnam. Yeah, Ahovalam. And Lord Chaitanya went there on his way to South India. So Varaha and Nrsimha are very close. And the other one specifically mentioned here is Kapila Dev, and Kapila was a Shaktivesh avatar, the empowered living being who taught his mother about transcendental knowledge, which comprises most of the third canto, or a good part of the third canto. Okay? All right, any questions or reflections? Go ahead.
Was it somewhere, does it say somewhere that the red incarnation is referring to Lord Varaha? Because there's a white version of Varahadev and the red one.
Yeah, go Paul. Corrections. Yeah, Lord Varaha is mentioned twice, third canto and else. But anyway, the acharyas say that these are two separate descriptions. These avatars are appearing over and over and over again. So they're appearing in different ways with different nuances in different universes at different times. I have heard that, yes, Varaha is referred to as a red incarnation. Yet he appeared very early on, in the very early days of creation, which have been for second. So I don't know exactly how that went. All right, that's a very technical question, a good one. Any general questions? Comments?
Thank you, Prabhuji. Now we're reading all these incarnations, and I can't help but feel that, well, I didn't catch any of them, at least not this lifetime. But then I was trying to think maybe you can clarify, but on a demigod timetable, Krishna comes every day of Brahma. So it does mean that just like we go to Krishna every day, he comes every day here. So it seems like he cares.
Yes, right. The time frame for our perspective is quite lengthy. For him, he's coming every day. Yeah, it's like for an ant. What's the lifespan of an ant? A few weeks, a few months. The perspective of the ant for us is just so different. I cannot even conceive of how somebody could live 100 years. These little flies that they're born and they die within 24 hours. For them, that's a whole 100 years. That's their lifetime. It was Einstein who said this: time is relative. Time is not absolute. It is relative according to your perspective. So for Brahma, one day is for us, it's 1,000 rotations of those 4 ages. Right? So something like 4 trillion years. That's his day. And then his night is the same duration. So I'll see you tomorrow. So we have a very tiny perspective of time. For us, 100 years is amazing. I just read about a 100-year-old priest. He lives 100 years old. He's healthy. He's giving mass every day. his retirement home. He was asked, "What is the secret of your longevity?" He said, "I pray a lot and I drink a lot of milk." So, yeah. So we also we pray a lot. We chant. We have kirtan. We do this little prescribed set of prayers every day, and we drink a lot of milk, at least as much as possible. So the idea of 100 years is tenable for devotees of the non-destructive habits, the 4 regulative principles. These things just extend life. So anyway, anything else?
Hare Krishna. Yeah. When you were giving the class, I was thinking like I'm so grateful we're personalists. There's so much variety. We may gravitate towards one form more than another.
Yes.
So yeah, my question is, how do we develop like a more personal relationship with like Krishna through like his deity?
As we progress in Krishna consciousness, we get attracted to one particular form of Krishna. That's our dormant spiritual identity. And that takes years, it takes decades, there's no rush. But we all do have some eternal connection with one of these forms of Krishna in a certain relationship. The soul, we say like the soul is animating the body, but it cannot be perceived materially. So the soul is like a seed. The spirit, the full spiritual existence, or our full spiritual identity has been reduced to this tiny little spark. And then we're manifesting these gross material bodies as kind of perverted expressions of our perverted desires. So when we give up the perverted desires, then that spiritual spark begins to remanifest its eternal identity. And so there's no need to rush. There's no need to pick one. Oh, I want to be this one or that one. We have an already established identity. And all of these incarnations have their own planets. There's one incarnation that does not have its own planet. What is that? One appearance of Krishna. The very intimate presence of Krishna that does not have its own planet. No. What? Yes, Paramatma, the super soul. The super soul is Krishna's incarnation that exists only in the material world. He's in every heart, he's in every atom, he's in between every atom. He pervades everything like fire permeates wood. So many, we're not even touching all of the incarnations there, just some of the prominent ones. All right, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Sarira Vijaya Sankriya Sarika Kive Pure Shaya Sakare Kamaya Divaya Silo Bhavasi Dharmati Kake Jeta Kashina Sansare Krishna Bhoga Joya Moy Kori Pare Jiva Joy Swa Prasadana Viva Seyana Rita Pao Radha Krishna Gunaka Primidato Sri Tanya Nitai Jani Mai Jani Tai Shiva Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bo Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Hare